issue, and Honorable Musasi knows this, the issue of fuel. Because it's not only people who can afford fuel that are going to buy fuel. What about the local person who will board a taxi?
Those local people. It increases the cost of goods and services.
Right, Honorable Speaker.
You get it, eh?
Right, Honorable Speaker, before you preempt that.
The issue, I don't know what order you want to bring, but let's just proceed, because I'll also rise up and say order and order continuously. All right, Honorable Speaker, the matter of
but you
taxation.
people, you're making this house unruly.
Right, Honorable Speaker, on the matter of taxation. Yes,
Mehdi.
You restrained me when she was.
Mehdi,
Matters of taxation, I want to hold. Yes.
Honorable members. Mehdi, first seat.
You can't.
Mehdi. Which man? What has he done? What has he done?
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Before you hear from me, you cannot presume what I'm going to say. The government presented the framework papers and the ministerial policy statement. You had chorus by chorus from every minister saying, my department needs more funding. The Honorable Minister of Finance intends to bring sources of raising revenue. All right? Therefore, what Honorable Oduru is saying is that for any law that is being presented is to cure something. If we say we are removing this, how do we broaden the tax base? That is the most important thing we are talking about when we are talking about milking of the traders. Yes, I'm telling you, because at the end of the day, we'll walk back to this house when a particular source of people is the one being squeezed if we do not devise solutions from here.
There is Ozima. Honorable members. We are debating in anticipation. Can you move? Okay, can I ask a question? Do we need to pass tax bills, yes or no? No. Do we need tax bills?
Madam Speaker.
Now, how do you debate before it is moved? How do you debate before it is moved?
Committee on Finance. All the issues that colleagues are raising are part of the bills.
Exactly now.
I don't know what sort of parliament are we going to be. All the issues on fuel and everything are in the bill. Why don't we allow the minister to move the motions and then we deal with the bills themselves?
Are you kill up for Semuju for the first time?
Madam Speaker, when you said, do we need to pass the bills?
No.
This is one. No. Just listen to.
It is not passing the bill. Nathan says, Honorable Nathan Nandala of Budadiri, Chairman of Bugiso Cooperative. Can you move? Nathan just said the young girl is... the law is there. That's what I was asking.
Right Honorable Speaker, I beg to move a motion that the value-added tax amendment bill 2024 be read for the second time. I beg to move.
Seconded. It is seconded by Connie, Susan, Maggie, Koluo, Jane, Agriculture, Nancy, Afande Alayo, Obua, Achon Obua, Katesh, AG, Ogwang, Amos, Honorable Bahati, Government Chief Whip, and all the NRM sites. Speak to your bill.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues. The bill is intended to amend the value-added tax cap 349 to classify the supply of goods or services by an employer to an employee at no consideration as a taxable supply, to increase the threshold for the offset in case of the overpaid tax from 5 million shillings to 10 million shillings, to amend the first schedule to include the African Reinsurance Corporation, International Regulatory Board of the East African Power Pool, and Islamic Cooperation for development of the private sector as listed institutions. And lastly, to amend the second schedule on exempt supplies for purposes of reinforcing the VAT exemption regime and other related matters. I submit, Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Chair of the committee. Does it have a minority?
Right Honorable Speaker, honorable colleagues, the bill on value added tax amendment bill 2024 was at the 18th sitting of the third meeting of the third session of the 11th Parliament of Uganda. That meeting held on Thursday, 28th March 2024, presented for the first reading and referred to the Committee on Finance, Planning and Economic Development for further scrutiny. And I would like to report that the committee handled the bill and hereby reports. I'd like also to report that this bill has a minority report member, the Honorable Semuju Nganda Ibrahim, and I hope he's given an opportunity. Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues.
No.
I thought yours was an income tax.
Chair, if you're saying it, I also attached a minority. Yes. If there are two different ones, there's a minority.
You attached it in the committee?
On clause 10.
Yes, I beg your pardon. Yes, clause 10. I thought my brother had submitted one, but I later found out. Yes, those two were received by the committee, but I would like to submit, Right Honorable Speaker, the proceedings, information that were given by the entities and people that we interacted with, and the minutes thereof allow me to lay even the original bills the original reports, I beg your pardon. I beg to lay, Right Honorable Speaker. Allow me to go straight to the report of the committee. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee considered the bill through consultation with different stakeholders and hereby reports the object of the bill. The object of this bill is to amend the Value Added Tax Act, CAP 349, herein referred to as the Act, to expand the definition of the electronic services, to provide for a limit on input on tax to activities related to output tax being accounted for, and to disallow input tax credit to a registered foreign supplier, to provide for the declaration of value-added tax on imported services by large unregistered persons and unregistered government entities, to provide for ZIPRI, PTA Reinsurance Company, as a listed institution and for related matters. Methodology: the committee held meetings and received memoranda from the following: the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, the Attorney General, Uganda Revenue Authority, the Uganda Law Society, Southern and Eastern African Trade Information and Negotiations Institution, Siatini, Uganda, the Private Sector Foundation, Uganda, Uganda Manufacturers Association, PricewaterhouseCoopers, and all the communications were attached in what I've laid, Right Honorable Speaker. Observations and recommendations of the committee. Right Honorable Speaker and honorable colleagues, the committee made the following observations and recommendations based on the minister's proposals and the stakeholders' views. General observations and recommendations. Revenue and certificates of financial implication. Section 76, subsection 2 of the Public Finance Management Act 2015 requires a certificate of financial implication of a given bill should be indicated or should indicate the estimate of revenue expenditure over a period of not less than 2 years after coming in effect. The committee noted that the certificate of financial implication issued for the bill was inadequate in as far as detailing the estimates of revenue for each of the next 2 financial years. Generation of tax proposals. While the committee received briefs on the proposed tax amendments in the bill, there were no research reports available to the committee. The committee received briefs, and the briefs do not highlight the cost of implication, the yield in terms of revenue, and the general impact on the economy. The committee also noted with concern, as reported in the Domestic Revenue Mobilization Strategy Annual Monitoring Plan for 2022-23, that A, majority of the tax laws amendments are not informed by tax-related analytical briefs, and B, weak partnerships between the Tax Policy Department in the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development and URA, which this undermines evidence-based tax development mechanisms. The committee further notes that the ministry responsible for finance failed to adhere to the previous recommendations of Parliament while considering bills for 2023-24, that every bill should be accompanied by a standalone evaluation or regulatory impact assessment. And C, stability of the tax regime. The committee observed that the frequent amendments of tax laws has caused challenges on both the taxpayer and the Uganda Revenue Authority while administering the taxes. The committee attributed this to the absence of a comprehensive tax policy. And therefore, we recommend that the Ministry of Finance establishes a comprehensive taxation policy to address, among others, the stability of the tax regimes. We also note that there was silence on the new international tax measures. The committee observed that whereas the minister presented new tax policy measures in 2024 tax bills, with the exception of the levy on petroleum products, there was a notable absence of measures covering the international trade taxes. At the same time, the projected tax collections under international taxes was projected to decline slightly on a year-on-year basis. The committee further established the tax policy on international trade is agreed jointly by the Council of East African Community Ministers responsible for finance. Accordingly, Parliament is never given its constitutional duty to scrutinize tax policies under this category. Recommendation. The committee therefore recommends that the minister should always report to Parliament at the earliest opportunity after the meeting of the ESC finance ministers in order to afford this House an opportunity for an input into all the new tax measures. Right Honourable Speaker. Clause 2 and 4. Amendment of Section 5 and 10 of the Principal Act. Section 5 of the Act provides for persons who are liable to pay tax, and these include this case of a taxable person, the person making the supply in the case of an input of goods, the importer, and in case of a supply of imported services other than imported services, the person receiving the supply.
Honorable Gwang, we still need you in. We need you in. And whips. And Ugandans out there. This is the most important legislation that we are doing. If people are charged the high taxes, it's because you've not been here to represent your people. So when people stay out there and leave few people to be here, then the mistake is not on anybody, it is on your people that you voted in. Then afterwards you start blaming URA, who is just executing what has been passed here. So all the whips, you need to have your members in the House. This is a very important sitting.
Right Honourable Speaker, Section 10 of the Act provides for supply of goods by auction and was amended in 2023 to treat a supply of goods made by the auctioneer as a supply in the course of auctioning goods. The committee therefore noted that the proposed amendment is intended to clarify that the recipient of the proceeds of the auctioned goods is responsible for accounting for VAT on the sale of goods under Section 5. The committee further noted that the amendment of Section 5 and 10 of the Principal Act is intended to clarify that where a debtor's property is disposed of through a sale, then the supply is treated as made by the debtor and not the auctioneer/creditor. Further, the auctioneer/creditor is not entitled to a credit for any input tax incurred against the output tax and shall be liable to pay the output tax payable on the supply. And therefore, the committee recommends, Right Honourable Speaker and colleagues, that the proposal be maintained in the bill since it provides clarity and eliminates ambiguity in the treatment of the auctioned goods. Clause 3. Amendment of Section 7 of the Principal Act. Clause 3 proposes to amend Section 7 of the Principal Act in subsection 4A by repealing paragraph C. Section 7(4)(a)(c) of the Principal Act states that a person supplying goods or services for consideration as part of his or her business activities, but who is not required to, by subsection 1 or 5, to supply for registration, may apply to the Commissioner General to be registered in accordance with Section 8. The committee observed that Section 7(4)(a)(c) of the VAT Act allows persons engaged in commercial farming to register for VAT despite the fact that their supplies are exempt from VAT. They are therefore allowed to claim input VAT without charging output VAT on their supplies. The committee further observed removing commercial farmers from the list of persons who may apply to the Commissioner General to be registered in accordance with Section 8 of the Act denies them the opportunity to claim input credit. The committee further observed that the removal of the commercial farmers from the list of persons who may apply to the Commissioner General to be registered for VAT undermines the contribution of the commercial farming to the Ugandan economy. And therefore, the committee recommends that 1, URA should strengthen its tax education, and 2, the proposed amendment should be rejected and Section 7(4)(a)(c) be maintained in the Act. Clause 5. Amendment of Section 18 of Principal Act. Section 19 of the Act provides for taxable supplies. Clause 5 of the bill seeks to amend Section 18 of the Act by inserting paragraph 18(9) to include that the supply of goods or services by an employer to an employee for no consideration is considered a taxable supply except where the employer was not entitled to input tax credit. The committee was informed that the employers are using the avenue to give free taxable goods to the employees without consideration, but claim input credit for the goods supplied. This is an abuse of the law, since URA, on the other hand, cannot recover the output tax. Through the proposed amendment, the taxable supply should be treated as having been made for a consideration equal to the fair market value of the supply and should only apply to employees' benefits, which are taxable supplies under the law. And therefore, the committee recommends that Clause 5 of the bill be passed. Clause 6, amendment of Section 42 of the Act. Section 42 of the Act provides for refund of overpaid tax. The proposed amendment seeks to amend the provisions by increasing the threshold for claiming the refund of overpaid tax from Uganda shillings 5 million to Uganda shillings 10 million. Whereas the committee received a proposal for increment of the threshold to Uganda shillings 50 million, the committee observed that increasing the threshold will have the effect of incapacitating small and medium enterprises, the SMEs, from claiming for the overpaid tax, which will negatively affect their business. Therefore, the committee observed that this is intended to reduce the number of taxpayers claiming refunds. Refunds below 10 million shall be automatically carried forward to offset the output of the next financial year. And therefore, the committee recommends that Clause 6 of the bill be passed. Clause 7, insertion of Section 66A to the Principal Act. Clause 7, Right Honourable Speaker and Honourable colleagues, seeks to introduce a new provision to the Act by imposing a penalty for failure to withhold tax. Accordingly, a withholding agent who fails to withhold tax in accordance with the Act shall be personally liable to pay to the Commissioner the amount of tax which has not been withheld, but the withholding agent is entitled to recover this amount from the person. Further, the provision will apply to the liability imposed as if it were a penalty for non-payment of tax. The Minister informed the committee that currently there is no law compelling designated withholding tax agents to withhold VAT. And therefore, this amendment seeks to compel the withholding agents to withhold or face the inconvenience of paying the taxpayers or paying for taxpayers and pursue a reimbursement. The committee observed that the imposition of the provision has implications of compelling withholding agents to remit 6% of withholding VAT, withheld on VAT. As a consequence, this is not accounted for in the VAT input returns. It also has an implication of ensuring URA of a minimum of 6% of any VAT received or withheld by an agent. This is not accounted for in the VAT input returns and disadvantages the supplier. The proposal shifts URA's mandate to the taxpayer on account of failure to withhold tax. In addition, all URA registered taxpayers are required to issue IFRIS or invoices, and this gives URA visibility of transaction by such payers. Recommendation. The committee finds no merit in the proposed amendment and recommends that the proposal should not be adopted. 2, the imposition of 6% withholding tax on VAT is inconsistent with the VAT Act, and therefore the ministry should harmonize the regulations. Clause 6, amendment of the first schedule to the Act. Clause 8 seeks to amend first schedule to the Act to include Africa Reinsurance Corporation, Africa Re, International Regulatory Board of the East African Power Pool, and Islamic Corporation of the Development of the Private Sector. The committee noted that Africa Re is an African Union institution established in 1976 by the AU member states and the African Development Bank. Uganda was among the founder signatory states with 22 shares and thus receives dividends from it. Article 51 of the Establishment Agreement states that each member state shall undertake to waive and refrain from imposing any administrative, practical, and financial restrictions that would hinder in any manner a smooth functioning of the activities of the corporation. It also provides that each member state shall exempt the corporation from all duties and taxes arising from the corporation's activities in the member state's national territory. The committee further noted that the Islamic Corporation for the Development of Private Sector is a part of the Islamic Development Bank Group, which already is exempted in first schedule of the VAT Act. It is a multilateral development financial institution that supports the economic development of its member countries by providing financing to the private sector projects, promotes competition, entrepreneurship, encourages cross-border investment. The proposed amendment is intended to clarify that Islamic Cooperation for Development for the Private Sector is an arm of the Islamic Development Bank and is entitled to a VAT exemption to avoid disruption of its services to the private sector in Uganda. The committee further noted that under the International Regulatory Board of East African Power Pool, government has committed to promote investments in the power sector and facilitates smooth cross-border energy initiatives within the EAC region. The committee observed that the effect of the proposed amendment is to expand the refund of tax to international organizations under Section 45 of the Act and to include Africa Reinsurance Corporation, International Regulatory Board of the East African Power Pool, and the Islamic Corporation for Development for the Private Sector. And therefore, the committee recommends that the clause 8 be passed. Clause 9, amendment of the second schedule of the Act. The proposed amendment seeks to amend the list of exempted supply under the second schedule of the Act by A, repealing postage stamps, software, and equipment installation services to manufacturers. The committee observed that the repeal of the postage stamps and software and equipment installation services to manufacturers from the list is exempted supplies and is intended to broaden the tax base. B, including the following items: seed cake that does not include cake or dog food, hose, the supply of electric vehicles locally manufactured or supplied, or supply of frame and body of electric vehicle locally fabricated, the supply of electric vehicle charging equipment or supply of charging services of an electric vehicle, the supply of pesticide, the definition of pesticide, the supply of fertilizers, seeds and seedlings, the supply of cooking stoves that use fuel ethanol assembled in Uganda up to 30th June 2028, the supply of safety headgear, manufacturers of electric vehicles, electric battery or electric vehicle charging equipment, or fabrication of frame and body of an electric vehicle. The committee observed that the proposal amendments are intended to boost local production, public safety, and environmental sustainability. C, excluding goods and services used for personal and domestic use by contractors and subcontractors of hydroelectric power, solar power, geothermal power, and biogas and wind energy. The committee observed that the proposed amendment is entitled to limit abuse of exemption regime. And therefore, the committee recommends the clause 9 be passed. The proposed amendment, I beg your pardon, clause 10, amendment of the third schedule of the Act. The proposed amendment seeks to amend third schedule, which provides for zero-rated supplies by repealing the supply of seeds, fertilizers, and hose and pesticides. The committee observed that this proposal is intended to achieve consistent treatment of all agricultural inputs which have been exempted in the second schedule. Therefore, the committee recommends that the clause 10 be passed. I hereby submit, Right Honourable Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chair. Can we have a shadow? We have 2 reports. Nathan, you're just writing yours now, or? Okay.
Madam Speaker and honourable members, the value added tax amendment
You can
bill
actually even give the shadow to read it. If
2024,
combine.
the background has been given by the main report when it was brought here. And the agencies that we interacted with, I don't have to go through that. The main issues in this bill, if your employer, mainly the manufacturer, donates to you items, the bill requires him or her to pay VAT on them. And we want to give examples because we are not legislating only for ourselves. So you work in Coca-Cola, they give you 100 crates of soda for your wedding. The bill now says they must tax them.
Tax a donation?
Yeah, that's what the bill says. Because companies and manufacturers...
And who pays the one who is giving you the donation?
Yeah, so the companies
Who
now...
is the minister?
Madam, can I read the report?
You first wait.
So,
You
so the-
first start. You start. You start.
Madam Speaker, we have picked issues. Those of us who are opposed to part of the bill that we think we need to draw parliamentary attention to them and the public. The first issue is that the bill says, if your employer, say a manufacturer, donates to you item, he is now required to pay VAT on them. For example, if you have a wedding, like a colleague said here, and
Like
Coca-Cola.
Parliament gives you a car, so Parliament should pay VAT.
That's different because they are looking at the...
For trading?
Yes.
Okay, for trading, manufacturing.
So,
Taxable goods.
so if they give you 100 crates of soda, or you have a wedding, or you have a function, or you've lost someone, now the bill says the government will tax your employer who is giving you those items. The amendment also is introducing a penalty. I think the committee now.
Exempt.
Yeah, I think here we agree with the committee. The second point, but I simply wanted to draw your attention to it. The third.
Enos, I want you to bring your clarification after he has read. After he has read.
But he's on the committee.
Even if we only cover this one bill, let's go slow on this.
You see, Enos is a member of the committee. He has signed a majority report, which means we disagree. I don't know why he's
We
restless.
are looking at areas of dissent.
Yes. So,
We are
Madam
looking at
Speaker, the
areas of
third
concern.
issue is the amendment moving agricultural input such as the whole pesticide. So these issues I simply wanted to draw the attention of Parliament to them. Now I go to the issues of disagreement.
What's wrong with those items?
No, there is nothing wrong with them, but we thought we needed to draw Parliament's attention to them, that that's what they are in this bill. Now I go to the substantial issues of disagreement. The first, non-compliance with the law. The second, absence of comprehensive tax policy and the timing of these amendments. The third, no study, no research. The fourth is penalty for not withholding tax. And I'll start with non-compliance. The Public Finance Management Act makes it a requirement that every bill presented to Parliament shall be accompanied by a certificate of financial implication. This certificate under Section 76 of the Act states, shall indicate the estimates of revenue and expenditure over a period of not less than 2 years after the coming into effect of the bill when passed. The certificate shall indicate the impact of the bill on the economy. This, in simple terms, means total amount to be spent on implementation of the law and the expected revenue. In this case, the cost of correcting the new taxes vis-a-vis amount realized. Government committed itself to balance the need for revenue correction and economic growth. You don't just close down businesses or threaten to close them over failure to pay taxes without looking at the other factors. That's what government committed itself to. For example, you can close a company and you lose 100 jobs. So you will have lost the tax you want to recover, but you also have lost a job. For example, Game was closed because it didn't pay 23 billion. So they didn't pay the money after all they closed, but also the jobs were lost to them. So that's why the law requires that you look at the implication of every proposal to the economy. The certificate of financial implication, the Honorable Matia Kasaija issued, dated March 27, just 1 day before running to Parliament, was presented before running to Parliament, doesn't meet these requirements. It reads, and I have attached the certificates for you to read. Since this is an amendment to existing tax provisions, there is no expenditure plan specifically different from the overall allocation of 619 billion for the financial year 2024-2025 and shillings 534 billion for the financial year 2025-2026 to Uganda Revenue Authority. This is the certificate the minister issued for all the 5 tax bills. I don't want to invite you to debate in anticipation. I am only inviting your attendance that you will find the same certificate. They are just changing names and dates. The only change is the name of the bill. No wonder all the 5 certificates were signed on the same day and 1 hour. The minister doesn't know how much it will cost to correct the new tax proposals. If he knows, he doesn't want to tell Parliament as it is required in the law. He, without any study, concludes that this new measure in this amendment will yield an estimated 74 billion. That's what the minister says. No study, nothing. He says he wants to raise 74 billion through these amendments to the VAT Act. The Domestic Revenue Mobilization Strategy Annual Monitoring Plan for financial year 2020 to 2023 observed, like the committee said, majority of the tax law amendments are not informed by tax-related analytical briefs. This is what this Kasaija certificate confirms. Yet the same minister, in his letter introducing the Domestic Revenue Mobilization Strategy,
for Uganda 2019 up to 2024 committed to end arbitrariness. He said, and I want to quote the minister, in order to achieve our revenue potential, please listen, we will move away from ad hoc annual tax policy changes. These piecemeal adjustments with little alignments to an overarching strategy have created a high degree of unpredictability and uncertainty in our tax policy direction. The domestic revenue mobilization strategy will address this, as well as ensure that our future tax policy embodies the principles of simplicity, fairness, citizen welfare, and sustainability. This is what the minister said. They were no longer running the way they are running. I don't know. This is the commitment, forgive my spelling there, the minister made to the country in writing. This parliament must hold this minister to his commitment that they will no longer run with small amendments here. They will now, after comprehensive policy review and study, come here because of the reason he said this causes to the economy. The certificate doesn't show the overall impact of the tax proposals on the economy. Moreover, Parliament, as our colleagues in the majority observed, recommend that in addition to all these commitments and the law, every bill should be accompanied by a standalone evaluation or regulatory impact assessment. I go to point number 2. There is no comprehensive taxation policy in Uganda. Right, Honorable Speaker and members, on May 5th, 2022, concerns were raised by Honorable Javira Semwang, MP Buyamba, regarding the absence of a comprehensive taxation policy in Uganda. This concern stemmed from the realization that the domestic revenue mobilization strategy formulated by Minister of Finance in 2020 lacked a well-documented taxation policy. Consequently, Parliament on the same day, 5th May 2022, passed a motion urging the government to develop a comprehensive policy on taxation. Unfortunately, Right Honorable Speaker and members, up to now, this government every financial year introduces tax bills without a taxation policy in place. This approach, the Honorable Speaker, grants this government unchecked discretion in determining which taxes to impose, which amounts, timing, and targets. Often this leads to unfair taxation that disproportionately burden the impoverished citizenry. During the debate, one of the members who has now signed the majority, the Honorable Kateshumba Dixon, former Commissioner for Domestic Taxes, stated, and I want to quote here what he stated. Yes, we need to base our tax decisions on a structured policy, rather than relying on ad hoc negotiations. This approach will enable us to uphold the principles we aim for and foster investment within our country. That's what the Honorable Kateshumba said here. I don't know which Kateshumba now has signed the majority report. The Honorable Asumani Basalirwa, President of JEMA and MP for Bugiri Municipality, echoed similar sentiments, emphasizing that effective legislation on taxation is typically preceded by a well-established policy framework. He highlighted the existence of numerous taxation laws that lack proper policy guidelines. Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members, in the absence of such a comprehensive taxation policy, the hands of this parliament are tied. Solution is to ask government to withdraw their bills and return when they are ready. I don't know how long you want to continue babysitting adults like Honorable Kasaija and Honorable Musasi and the company. Because you made a proposal and told them go and do these things. They have now returned without doing them. They are saying go ahead.
You're clapping on babysitting Kasaija.
Yeah.
Your grandfather.
I said you are babysitting adults.
No,
That's why
I'm saying Goretti.
the minority is
I'm
complaining. Timing of new tax proposals. Right Honorable Speaker, there is already instability in the tax sector, as the main reporter has reported. Traders have just opened their shops. There is a general feeling of overtaxation with very little to show for it in terms of social services. Roads in Kampala City Kampala metropolitan districts of Wakiso, Mukono, Mpigi, and other areas in the country have completely broken down. There is a general cry that leaders are swimming in luxury at the expense of taxpayers. The other day, Parliament approved a supplementary budget of 1.1 trillion, including 576 billion that was gifted to Matthias Magola. What do you think citizens will feel about this, that you are collecting to give away? This needs to be addressed before any new tax measure is proposed. We need to restore confidence. Stability is a key principle in taxation. Taxes should be introduced at least every 5 years. That's why Minister of Finance committed himself to do, not annually like it is with this government. If the country is still crying with implementation of existing taxes, is your answer to impose new ones? Why don't we first deal with the leakage, corruption, and use the savings to finance the budget rather than thinking of new tax measures? You, Parliament, you are going to be blamed for new taxes as you are blamed for the old ones. For once, you can say no to them. I can skip the penalty for not withholding. Later, we reach the consensus. This is my report. You're asking why. Did I ask you why you included that? Tax on donated items. I have referred to this. I think here we are being inhuman. How do you impose a tax on items that have not been sold? We are in a way stopping companies and manufacturers from incentivizing their workers. If an employee of Coca-Cola has a wedding or a funeral, and the company donates 100 crates, why charge the company VAT? This I am asking Parliament to reject. Right, Honorable Speaker and Honorable Members, we have attached the certificate of financial implication. Members may not have picked a copy for you to see that actually this is not better than a cheat. We have also attached a letter from the Honorable Minister Kasaija and highlighted the specific paragraph in which he said the government will no longer now come to Parliament with piecemeal amendments like this. This is a letter from the minister. I hope you can go up where we have highlighted, which is the third paragraph. But you can read because we made sure. Yeah, I think that is it, Right Honorable Speaker. This Parliament has no option
Thank you.
but to tell the minister to follow the law.
Thank you.
When he does, I will gladly come here and we begin debating and supporting.
Nathan.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Nathan.
Thank you very much, Madam
Chairman,
Speaker.
not just BC.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, before I make the issue which is under clause 9 and clause 10, there are just 3 small things I want to put ahead first. First, the Ministry of Finance is looking more on income, but not looking at expenditure. So when they look at income, while they are not addressing expenditure, is the reason why every now and then they are bringing more tax proposals to collect more. Number 2, Madam Speaker, you asked the question, if we don't pass this bill, is there any problem? There's no problem. Already there's existing law. It will continue to be in force, so you don't need to worry. Number 3 is about the changes in prices, especially in fuel. I think also we should also address the issue of other costs. Okay. This is not this is the one who advised the minister.
Please go ahead. Go ahead.
The third one, Madam Speaker, is on the increase of prices of commodities. I think we're looking at the item of only taxation, but also the other issues like exchange rates. Like, for example, If the price of the fuel, we bought it at 3,700, and now the cost is 3,900 a dollar, that means that change in exchange rate will be put on the what? On the fuel. So I want to say that we import all our fuel, and even the clothes we put on, we import. That's why when you go to the market, you'll discover the price is going high. But basically, it's not tax, but because of the change in the exchange rate, which is going up. So you better get your own fuel. The fourth one, Madam Speaker, so that I will concentrate on, which I want to help members to also be knowing, in taxation, donations are not allowed. Unless it is categorically put in the law that this is a donation, which will be allowed maybe to a charity, to some institutions which are known. So therefore, if a donation is not allowed, that means if you make a donation, you should be taking care of everything which go by it. So if, for example, I don't want to talk about Coca-Cola. Let me talk about beer. Supposing I'm going to Wed, I work for Uganda Breweries, they give me 100 crates of beer. I only take 20, I sell the 80. You understand? In the same market. And also that means you have to be very careful when dealing with donations and exemptions. Madam Speaker, having spoken all those many things, I want to descend on two clauses, clause 9 and clause 10. Clause 9 proposes to move hose, pesticides, seeds, fertilizers from 0 rated under Schedule 3 to Schedule 2 as exempt. Madam Speaker and honorable members, the moment you make it that way, it means the cost of hose is going to increase. How? Some people will lie you, these guys of URA and finance, that exempt means 0. It means all the costs related to that hole, if they are not allowed for VAT purposes, will be added on the price of the hole. So the reason I'm coming here is to tell you that clause 9, we should not accept those to be exempted, and the clause 10 should be deleted. Simple. I think I've finished my case. Let me give maybe a simple one. I am selling hose here. I rent a shop. I am paying VAT on the shop. And if I'm not allowed that VAT on that shop I've paid as rental, then that price, that VAT I'm not being allowed, will be added on the price of the hole. This is an agricultural country. We have not reached there. We need these items to be really supported. And that's why I'm saying, if there are some items in the Schedule 2 which is related to agriculture and we have forgotten to deal with them, it is now high time we move them from Schedule 2 to Schedule 3. Madam Speaker, I beg to submit.
Thank you so much. Next time, let's have one minority. We can combine them together and we have one. And that will be a respect to our shadow finance. Wait, honorable members. You know, this is a report of a committee. The minister has had a report from the committee. The minister may want to simplify things. Honorable Minister, you may want to simplify things. Where you want to concede, so that it makes the debate easier. You will come and clarify where the minister has not.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker and honorable colleagues. Let me take this opportunity to thank the committee for coming up with good analysis. And I also would like to appreciate our minority colleagues for taking time to analyze our bills very well. Madam Speaker, indeed I would like to simplify things. There is where we agree and where we disagree. And I want to go point by point. I want to begin with Honorable Mafabi, the proposal to not to move horse and the other agricultural items from Schedule 3 to Schedule 2. I strongly agree. Since you have accepted, I don't have to even labor justifying. Now, Honorable Semuju.
Is that okay with you?
Madam Speaker, that's fine. That's what should be.
Shadow? Jonathan? I don't want us to continue debating on things. Let's go straight. Yes.
Madam Speaker, on the proposal by Semuju,
Honorable Semuju.
Honorable Semuju, not to tax offers given by employers to employees, I strongly disagree on account of the following, and I want to use an example. Assuming you work with a company, say, involved in production of sodas, and this company every Friday decides to give you 1 crate of soda to take home for the kids to enjoy over the weekend. It will give you this crate of soda on cost plus VAT. We therefore expect you to receive this order on the cost plus, assuming you decide not to use it for your personal use. Even if you use it for your personal use, you become the last person, whom we call the last consumer, and therefore you should pay the VAT. Even if you decide to sell it, you should also sell it plus VAT. Therefore, Madam Speaker, I would like to invite Honorable Semuju and the House to really appreciate the whole idea, the whole supply chain of VAT. These are not goods of specific nature. These are goods for consumption. You are not donating 1 million shillings for my wedding. You are donating, you are just foregoing to sell this item at a price. In other words, this product can be exchanged for a price. And therefore, Madam Chair, Speaker, here we strongly agree, we strongly disagree, and the committee, good enough, also disagreed with him, and I therefore support the committee's position. On our ferry, on withholding, I want to imagine you withdrew because you agreed with the committee, and I also agree with the committee. Madam Chair, sorry, Madam Speaker, on withholding, why I agree with the committee is that we regularly, time and again, we appoint withholding tax agents to say, Sereko and Company Limited, dealing in a particular business, you are going to be, we appoint you as our withholding tax agent for VAT purposes. And then you start collecting on our behalf and remitting to government. If for one reason or the other, fail to withhold, knowingly or unknowingly, this is a voluntary service you are providing to government. We shouldn't penalize you for failure to do something which you have voluntarily, which you have an option not to do. So here we should strengthen ourselves. As URA, we should strengthen when we talk about efficiency in tax administration. These are some of the things we should look at instead of bothering our taxpayers. So here I agree with the committee. On certificate of financial implications.
Honorable members, the only thing that we will now clear is what we are not in agreement.
Madam,
Yes, he's moving in very well. The only thing that we'll now debate is only what is not in agreement, where is flowing very well. It's not just talking for the gallery.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, there are also other matters which the minority report by Honorable Semuju brought out. One of them is non-compliance with the
Tax
the law, non-compliance with the public finance. Madam Speaker and the House,
even the
You will
even the major report.
you will agree with me that this is a subjective issue.
Pardon?
You will agree with me that the judgment is highly subjective. It depends on how we want to look at it and how Parliament would like to look at it. Therefore, I pray that we allow time to chew at this expectation gap. The two of us going forward can agree. It is the law, but how do we interpret the law? That is what I'm saying. That how we are interpreting and how Parliament is interpreting leaves some expectation gap. What Parliament would like to see and what we exactly know that is supposed to be done. Therefore, I want to pray that we give some time in the future, maybe next year, when I come back here to report, we shall have closed this gap. Now, what was the basis of our proposals? Madam Speaker, all our proposals are anchored on our domestic revenue mobilization strategy, which we are implementing from 2012 to 2017. And I want to really invite you colleagues, support us. We committed in this strategy that we shall raise the tax to GDP ratio from 13% to 18% and 20% in the long term. And all these efforts we are making are geared towards that direction. I want to thank you, Madam Speaker, and I invite the tax policy. The tax policy is before Cabinet for consideration, and the tax policy, Madam Speaker, is before Cabinet. Once Cabinet takes a decision, I will inform the House accordingly.
Goretti, you just don't echo.
Goretti, when I'm speaking about these matters, it is in my interest.
Honorable members, let's first reconcile ourselves. Let's reconcile ourselves. What we have agreed and what is left outstanding. Honorable Duru, Jonathan. No, let's.
Nothing else.
You've not been following. Honorable members, we've agreed
No, Madam Speaker,
that
since you
the
called-
issue of
I was on the point of
of,
order, Madam.
yes,
Last year and many other years before, the Honorable Minister has consistently told us that these policies before cabinet, even last year, and we allowed him to proceed on the understanding that after he
It
would
will
bring.
come.
It is now 1 year plus. Is he in order to keep, 2 years plus, is he in order to come and
Honorable Minister, our presumption is that cabinet sits every Monday. That's the presumption we have. So you've kept telling us it is still in cabinet. So when I'm with you.
what I'm saying, that when they sit in cabinet, last time you communicated, they go idling around, and yet there is a serious matter of policy to discuss. And that's what I wanted to draw your attention to. Idle talk in cabinet.
You know, when he talks about idle talk in cabinet, I said it and I will repeat it. That when you go into cabinet and start idly talking about issues of how parliament has been corrupted, not to pass RAPEX bills, how parliament is not doing its work, how parliament, and you forget to do your job. That is the idling we are talking about. But we are not talking about you as who? As Honorable Musasisi. We are talking about those people who were doing idle talks. But what you need to tell us, when do we have, what is the position? Just tell us what is the position. For you are not an idler. You're a very good minister. Hold on, members, hold on.
Madam Speaker, it is not true that last year I told this parliament that the cabinet, that the policy was before cabinet. It is not true. I am sure you know I'm a Mchiga. I don't tell lies. Madam Speaker,
Madam Speaker, sometimes we allow our colleagues space, but they must not misuse it. You earlier here, when you were asked about the prices of fuel, you said the law of supply and demand is what applies. Last year, you wanted the law changed so you can become a monopoly and import petroleum. Had you forgotten that the law of supply should apply there? So is the minister in order to come here and deny that sometimes he tells lies to parliament? Is he in order?
Maybe I'm just fortunate that I've never had this lie, because he's a Muchiga.
Madam Speaker, to cut the wrong story short.
Attorney General is standing.
I'm a Ugandan. Natural Speaker, on the issue of policy, we all know that cabinet is the policy-making organ of government. But we also know that the National Planning Authority plans, incubates, researches, and helps us formulate policy as a government. So there is a process, and that process takes time. It is unfortunate if that incubation is haphazardly done, and what is presented before you as you demand is riddled with insufficiency and holes. It is not true So I wanted to say that indeed there is a policy, there is a process for making this policy. And when the time is right, Cabinet, will present that policy, will pass that policy and bring it to the House. It would be wrong for this House to push Cabinet to present a policy that is still under incubation. The policy can only be presented when it is ready and proper. I beg to submit.
Honorable members, we are almost there. We've almost resolved all the legal issues in the act, in the bill. Now, the issue that is outstanding is on the compliance of the law. And which you just need to explain to this House. You need to explain to this House. Katesh, do you have what to say? Do you...
Right Honorable Speaker, I just wanted to give information so that the members can debate from a proper technical point of view on the issue which Honorable Semju raised it, about the donations.
That one has been sorted.
We are in agreement.
Okay. You know, honorable members, you'll bear with me, even if there are people who are members of the committee. But when I know, if it is a Honorable Nathan, I know he's a member of the committee, and when it comes to taxation, I will allow him to speak. When it comes to Katesh, when it comes to this, you are a VAT, Elijah Casilo was there. Those are people who were managing it. Then, of course, the shadow. Yes. Another tax.
Right, Honorable Speaker, I do hear the Deputy Attorney General when he says that we, for now, should accept what is half-baked.
Half-baked.
Because he said that we are dissatisfied. Actually, the words he used is that what you bring here has got holes and so on. Those are the words he used.
No.
I'm actually re-echoing the words that the Deputy Attorney General used, because...
Let's use the real words that are being used.
Let me use the real words that he used.
There is an order.
This is Parliament, a national legislature. I do understand that at times we have our own banter, but there is a cropping consistency of disrespect. I do respect the leader of opposition. Last week, he responded to me and said, you should compose yourself. He said it. It is on record. I don't know where it came from. And now he's saying something similar to that. Madam Speaker, I know the words I used and they are on record. I said Parliament should not push Cabinet to present a haphazard policy. I said the policy is still under incubation. Is it in order for the Right Honorable Leader of Opposition to regularly want to put words in my mouth, impute words that I have not spoken? Is it in order?
Of course, really, honorable members, we need to appreciate what Daga is saying. He says, yes, we need a policy here. And he's saying that the policy they want to bring should be a policy that has been completely done that will meet the test of time, not bringing something that is incomplete. And that's what he meant. But when you say that he said half-cooked, half-baked, half-cooked, it is not correct. It is not correct. You're wrong, Leader of Opposition.
Actually, right Honorable Speaker, in fact, when I use the word half-baked, I am wrong. This one is not even baked at all because there's no policy at all. So I'm wrong when I say half-baked. This one is not baked at all. And what I wanted to drive to, right Honorable
it
Speaker.
depends, because for me, I cannot say whether it is baked, half-baked, or it is in the process, because we don't sit in a cabinet. Now, the Leader of Opposition maybe sits in that cabinet.
Right Honorable Speaker, really to get to the serious issue, I actually wanted to drive government to commit. When do we get to have the comprehensive taxation policy?
Exactly.
So that we stop this back and forth, half-baked, not baked at all, and so on. We need to have
now you're talking as a Leader of Opposition.
No, but even the other time I was talking as Leader of the Opposition, right Honorable? So that we are able to hold them accountable. Because you see, the Honorable Musasizi has just denied that last year he did not promise us this. So we want, whether it be him,
No,
Prime
we need
Minister
a
is not around,
commitment. We need a
we need a
commitment.
proper commitment. When does this come?
We need a commitment and
Madam Speaker, today, this year, I have made a commitment that we shall bring a comprehensive tax policy before this House. And by end of this year, we shall have presented this policy to this House.
you know, honorable members, you're still here. If he doesn't bring, by end of this year, it's just 6 months away. But it's just 6 months away. He will bring it. If he doesn't, we hold him accountable.
I want to thank the Leader of Opposition for insisting, and we have got something from my brother Musasizi. The reason we're asking for a tax policy is taxes must be predictable. If they are not predictable, you can see why people are striking. It's because they are not so sure. Even there could be a good tax, but if you have not told people, they will not understand. Madam Speaker.
And then administration of it.
Yes, and Madam Speaker, world over, when you are going to change a tax, it takes 5 years. But for us here, because of lack of the tax policy, you wake up at night, you bring it in Parliament, in a few minutes, it has been passed. And that's why we're having a problem, even in taxation. And that's why even we're creating inefficiency in URA. Whenever they discover something is becoming hard for them to collect, they just bring a law here for us to make for them the law so that they go and sit in their back instead of enforcing, and we're paying them salaries. So, Madam Speaker, if the minister is saying at the end of the year, I think this is a problem. You see, there should be something you should be putting across. For purpose of a tax policy to be out very well, it needs a wide consultation. Now, if you have done that, why don't you say, within 1 week, I can bring a draft to the House to see how far we have gone. And it will help. And Maxwell is here, will agree with me. That's the best way to move. Before this budget, say, this is how we have gone, and that's how we believe that within 6 more months, this will be a policy out, but this is the draft where we are. It will help.
Honorable, as I go to the final issue, which is legal, I just want to really emphasize to government, the reason we are insisting on this is because a policy gives you direction. Last year, you brought an amendment to this same act. This year, you've brought another one. Which direction do you move in? Because once there is no clear policy, then we shall be operating using the word that I was using earlier on in a haphazard manner and so on. That's why we are insisting on this policy. It will help you also. Because when we are asking you to say, where does that come from? You say, but here is a taxation policy from which it is emanating. But now this is coming out of the blue. Lastly, Right Honorable Speaker, the legal issue is regarding the certificate of financial implication. Actually, both reports are in consonance to say that this certificate of financial implication, a copy of which I have here, is defective. They only disagree on the resolution. Right Honorable Speaker, with your indulgence, let me just read the two subsections of the Public Finance Management Act, verbatim, so that we know it's a serious issue. This is section 76, firstly, subsection 2. The certificate of financial implications issued under subsection 1 shall indicate the estimates of revenue and expenditure over the period of not less than 2 years after the coming into effect of the bill when passed. That is missing. And here we are talking the law, not politics. Subsection 3. In addition to the requirements under subsection 2, the certificate of financial implications shall indicate the impact of the bill on the economy. That is not here in this certificate of financial implications. And I'm quoting for you the law. So in essence, this is defective, and both reports do agree. Right Honorable Speaker, we've got a precedent that was set last week. There are bills that had to be thrown out. The Honorable Kasolo was here, and we tasked him and told him the certificate of financial implications that he had was defective. He had to go back and sort himself out. We need to be smart and organized, even legally. The minister should be withdrawing this bill, goes back, puts his house in order, and then we comply with the law. Because we are not going to suspend this particular provision of the law, section 76 of the PFMA. We actually don't have the mandate to we can only suspend our rules. But acts of parliament, they are acts of parliament, they are law. So I want to implore the minister who is not listening, maybe I give him a minute. I'm glad the gentlemen are letting go of the speaker so that this point is delivered home. Mr. Attorney General and Finance Minister, this is for you.
Honorable members, honorable members, we are not suspended. Just sit. Honorable members, there are things we need to hear from the Minister of Finance. On the first part, he has done very well. He has complied. He has made his commitment. I am telling him he should reduce the time of his commitment. Yes?
Right Honorable, while the gentlemen were consulting with you, there's an issue that I raised, which if you allow me in a minute to re-raise it so that it's drawn to their attention and to yours, Right Honorable. No. The defectiveness of the certificate of financial implication.
I was communicating what I was communicating to the minister, that he has to come on the floor and clarify to you on the issue of the certificate of financial institution.
Okay, because it's defective.
I mean, a financial implication. He's the one to respond, not me.
So finally, Right Honorable, I was actually quoting a precedent which we set last week. We had to throw out the Honorable Kasolo's bill until he reorganize the certificate of financial implication so that we follow the process smoothly as the law does prescribe. Otherwise, people are going to take us to court. You know, we have law students who are in law school studying how acts of parliament come into effect, how legislation is done. So when we have precedents that are not in consonance with the law, it's also not good for us. Yes, Shad. He has information.
But Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, this house is being broadcast live.
Honorable Musasisi.
Madam Speaker, if you allow, you can allow me a second, my colleague. See, what you have just witnessed here is exactly what happened when the committee was processing these bills. And I sympathize with my colleagues that you are assigned to chair committees, you the NRM side. In fact, they made the same observation, and one MP, I will not say the name, these are in-house, he was saying, but with that observation, the bill has collapsed. He said, hey, how do we improve the observation? Even the observation was edited. Let them deny if they did not edit their own.
Order.
Honorable.
Madam Speaker, and I beg the indulgence of colleagues, there is a difference between the bills of last week and these bills we are considering now. These bills are supposed to facilitate the budget for financial year 2024-2025. Just 1 year. You cannot ask me about the projected revenues for 2 years when the bill is for 1 year. And this is why I said that because we have experienced an expectation gap between what Parliament wants us to put in the bill and what we think should be there, Parliament or the law. Putting me on order doesn't give you anything.
Clarification.
Sorry?
Take it. Clarification. And we'll get a win-win situation. Clarification. No, I can't bash us. Right Honorable Speaker, he allowed my clarification.
Honorable members.
Right Honorable Speaker, the reason not every single person presents a policy on taxation or proposes a tax on this floor of Parliament is based on pardon? Because you must research the incidence, the impact, and everything.
Motion, Madam Speaker. The motion, Madam Speaker, is that
Honorable
we adjourn.
members, please first wait. You are the ones who are saying that we must handle this thing systematically. Eh? Honorable members, can I have, honorable members, can I have What have you resolved? Honorable members, I will ask the Minister of Finance, Shadow, you. I will ask the Minister of Finance. I will ask the Minister of Finance, Shadow, both Attorney Generals. Constitutional this side, and Government Chief Whip plus Nathan. Go and harmonize. Go and harmonize. Honorable members, go and harmonize and come and report back to the House. Jonah, you are a constitutional. I said, and chairperson, yes. I am giving you people 30 minutes to go and harmonize as we go for lunch. And once, Nathan, did you hear that I'm giving you for 30 minutes? Yes. So go and harmonize. I am suspending the House for 30 minutes.
UBC, inspiring Uganda. Tonight on UBC.
The first time we talked, you had just taken this office.
Yes, please.
And we were talking about how easy and difficult things were.
True.
How are you doing now?
If